Larry Bird has always been a man of few words, but when he speaks, every syllable carries the weight of history. And this time, his words cut through the noise like a knife. The basketball legend, known for his old-school toughness, quiet confidence, and pure love for the game, has stunned fans across the world after finally breaking his silence on a heated clash between Marina Mabrey and Caitlin Clark. What began as another on-court altercation quickly turned into a national debate, and Bird's rare public statement transformed that debate into a reckoning about respect, sportsmanship, and the soul of basketball itself. The incident that set everything off happened during a tense matchup that had emotions boiling over. Marina Mabrey, known for her aggressive playing style, delivered a hard foul to Caitlin Clark, a young star whose every move seems to spark headlines. It wasn't just a bump or a physical play, it felt deliberate, personal, and unnecessary. Fans immediately flooded social media, debating whether it was a cheap shot or just part of the game. But when Larry Bird stepped into the conversation, the tone shifted from gossip to gospel. This wasn't some casual analyst throwing opinions around. This was one of basketball's most respected icons, someone who lived through the roughest, toughest era in the sport, laying down a truth that nobody could ignore. Bird didn't mince words. He said flat out that what Mabrey did wasn't tough, it was weak. In his era, Bird explained, respect was earned by standing your ground, not by sneaking in a shove or looking for cheap attention. If you've got a problem with someone, Bird said, you face them like a competitor. You don't wait until their back's turned. That one line hit the internet like an earthquake. To hear it from someone like Bird, a man who had taken hits from Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman, and some of the fiercest enforcers the NBA had ever seen, gave the statement gravity. He wasn't criticizing passion or intensity. He was calling out cowardice. And he made it clear that the integrity of the game depends on knowing the difference. But what truly set Bird off wasn't just Mabrey's actions. It was her reaction. Instead of showing any reflection or accountability, Mabrey brushed off the criticism. She posted online, "Damned if I do, damned if I don't," implying that no matter how she played, she'd be targeted. To Bird, that wasn't strength. It was avoidance. True competitors take responsibility, he said. They don't hide behind excuses. His message was brutal but fair. Greatness doesn't come from deflection. It comes from accountability, from the willingness to face your mistakes and grow from them. As Bird spoke, he drew a comparison that sent shockwaves through the sports world. He said he'd seen this kind of behavior before. Players who realized they couldn't win through skill, so they tried to win through intimidation. That's not toughness, he said. That's insecurity. The honesty was vintage Bird, raw, unfiltered, and grounded in experience. He'd seen players lose control when the spotlight hit someone else. He'd seen egos clash when talent wasn't enough to keep up. And in that moment, he made it clear that the future of women's basketball would depend on how players handled that same pressure. But Larry Bird didn't just criticize. He also defended Caitlin Clark with a conviction that left fans emotional. He said what makes Clark special isn't just her shooting, her vision, or her poise under pressure. It's her character. She's got that rare thing, Bird said. Fire and control. The ability to take every hit, every foul, every cheap shot, and still play the game the right way. Coming from someone who had spent years battling rivals in the trenches, that kind of praise wasn't just flattery. It was validation. Bird even admitted that Clark reminded him of himself during his early years in the NBA, the way she reads the court, leads her team, and thrives under pressure. She's dealing with more now than I ever did, he said. But she never loses focus. And Bird didn't stop there. He issued a challenge to the players, the coaches, and the WNBA itself. He questioned whether the league was doing enough to protect its stars. If the league allows players to target someone like Clark without consequence, Bird warned, it sends the wrong message, that mediocrity can survive by dragging others down instead of rising to meet them. His words weren't just about one game or one player. They were about the future of the sport. Bird knew better than anyone that talent can only thrive in an environment where respect still means something. The irony is that Bird wasn't trying to stir controversy. His tone wasn't angry. It was disappointed. He's a man who loves basketball too deeply to watch it lose its heart. He's seen what happens when the game forgets its roots. When showmanship replaces substance. When pride replaces discipline. And he's determined not to let that happen to women's basketball, a sport that's finally getting the recognition it deserves. By the time Bird's comments spread online, They had already become bigger than a sports headline. They were being dissected on talk shows, debated on podcasts, and quoted in locker rooms across the country. Some called him old-fashioned. Others called him brave. But everyone agreed on one thing. When Larry Bird talks, people listen. And in this case, his message wasn't about nostalgia. It was about preservation. He reminded everyone that basketball isn't built on hate or highlight reels. It's built on respect, on the quiet moments of discipline that separate the greats from the rest. For Caitlin Clark, Bird's words must have felt like a shield. Coming from one of the game's greatest minds, it was a rare moment of validation amid the chaos. Bird predicted that every shove, every foul, every insult she faces will only make her stronger. Pressure reveals character, he said, and Caitlin's character is showing. That sentiment echoed everywhere. Fans began calling her the next legend in progress, and even some of her critics softened, realizing that the hate she's facing is the same kind of resistance every trailblazer endures. As for Marina Mabrey, Bird's comments may have drawn a line in her career, one that separates being a fiery competitor from being remembered as a player who lost sight of the game's code. Whether she chooses to grow from this moment or double down will likely define her legacy. Larry Bird's statement was more than commentary. It was a cultural reset. It reminded everyone, from fans to executives, that greatness doesn't just come from stats or championships. It comes from respect, humility, and love for the game. And in a world that often confuses aggression with strength, Bird's voice cut through the noise with a simple truth. Toughness isn't about how hard you hit. It's about how you play when the world hits you back. So now, the question isn't whether Larry Bird was right. It's whether anyone's listening. Will the WNBA protect the players who represent its future? Will rivals learn to compete with heart instead of hostility? Or will the league risk losing the beauty that made the game special in the first place? What do you think about Larry Bird's bold defense of Caitlin Clark and his criticism of Marina Mabrey's actions? Was he right to call it out, or should he have stayed silent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you love hearing these deep dives into the stories shaping basketball's future, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Because the drama, the legacy, and the passion behind this game, it's only just beginning.